Okay. You have everything pulled up?
Yes.
Okay. So what were your impressions of the CRC article and video by the United Nations? What about the article and videos by Parental Rights? So basically, I guess just any of the stuff we read or watched.
Yeah.
I was surprised that there would be something that literally every other country is a part of that we're not.
Hmm.
Like it like just automatically looking at that without any deep information, I was like thinking, well, what's wrong with us? Like if everybody else can agree on it and we can't, then what's wrong with like why aren't we just accepting it?
Yeah. Well, I think it's like it's interesting because, like you pointed out, I think America is right now the well, besides the developing countries, but like Europe or Russia or Asia, Canada, Australia. I don't know if Peru is developed or not, but the point is that those developed countries who have a set up government have a part of the government that's solely responsible for families. So going over um, this article and the videos, it's just we don't have that here in America, as far as I know. There's not a separate set of parliament or government in each city or state where it's solely devoted to families or children and the
Mhm.
protection of it. Yes, there's child protective services, but even they are very limited on what they can and cannot do. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of bad reputation with protective services and where they place the children and how there's the children are sometimes worse off in the system than being with their biological parents and stuff like that. So it's just, I don't know, for me, I felt kind of like disappointed in America in that moment, just because I think family is the most important thing.
Yeah, and I worked before I worked at the school that I'm working at now. I worked in temporary care shelter for
Mm-hmm.
children who were in like state custody.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like they placed them there just in between foster homes or placements. And there were some kids, like a lot, quite a few, who came directly from like their parents' home. And
Yeah.
so we'd get them in and we'd know a little bit about their background of where they came from so that we could care for them better. And then when sometimes they would come right back after they had been placed in a foster home or a different type of placement, and they were worse after they came back from the the placement that they
Yeah.
had. So like I definitely have seen like what you're talking about in that sometimes you're just kind of like, well, wait, America, what are you doing? Like,
Yes.
why are you thinking that this is a good idea, that you shouldn't have to do this? And it's true. Like, I think overall, when the country was established, didn't need a specific piece of government who would advocate for families because everyone had a family oriented mind. But now that everybody's going away from that, then it kind of seems like we really do need somebody who has a little bit more control than what the child protective services has, like you were saying.
Yeah, I think it goes on along with the second question. If you ever lived in a country where the CRC has already been ratified, what are some of the positive and negative effects you have observed as a result? Um, Coming from Germany, I mean, family is just the most important thing. Like Europe, it's called Europe because we're a union of all the countries. And so there are certain laws that are in effect for every country that's in the Europe Union, including the laws for families and for children. And so it's just, I don't know how to say it. There is so many things in those countries that protects the children, including the families. Um, talking about like with abortion, for example, that you cannot get an abortion after 10 weeks. It's just against the law. That there is a certain standard of living that needs to be high, because children, like, there is poverty in Germany, but only because you choose to. Like, if you don't have a job, you go to the job office, as we would call it over there. You get paid to put in resumes, and you get paid weekly or monthly. Um, and you get extra money for having kids. You get $200 every month for the first child, and then the second child it's like 150. Third child is like 130. It goes lower with every child, but I mean, if you add it up, that's like, you know, it's a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
And then one of the other things that I read on the article was the right of the parent to provide direction and guidance to the child. We have a lot of parenting classes that Germany and the European Union itself established that you have to go to. The doctors are entitled to give you those lessons. There's just so many other things that children go to kindergarten, and then they go to first grade, and in kindergarten they make sure it's a hot meal, and it's a high quality meal, not like in the schools here where you look at the food and you're like, what is this, you know?
Yeah.
It's actually homemade. We got cooks for every single kindergarten, cooks that their mothers and their grandmothers, most of them a little bit older, um, but they cook those meals right there in the kitchen, homemade. They don't have them delivered from somewhere. Or we make sure that the kids get um, time to play. I think the kids are there like for 8 hours, and out of them 8, they're outside for 4 hours. It's I don't know. For us in the European Union, it's always been kids and families come first.
So I just have a kind of like a question with it.
Yeah.
Did you feel like your parents like were able to raise you in the way that they wanted, or did you feel like the government like kind of were raising you?
No, you can raise your children however you want to. It's just we got very strong opinions on how we raise our children based on a lot of research. We love our research over there.
Yeah.
um, that's why I've known a lot of, with my other psychology class of child development, I've known a lot of that stuff just because we're being taught that in Germany.
Uh-huh.
That you can find similarities in how can I put this? It's easier to make friends in Germany and in the European Union because the parents of your friends raise your friends similar to how your parents raise you.
Yeah.
Because there's just this baseline on how we believe children should be raised.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I can see how that would be a lot easier and make it more beneficial for youth. And then all of you getting raised the same way, then you're going to have the same type of peer influence, and it's going to create overall a better culture.
yeah, like it starts from manners with the kids. You don't run around in a store, and you are not loud in the store, and you don't touch things that don't belong to you. If you go outside to play, you have to have a certain volume for that because you don't want to disturb the others. It's just common courtesy that is being taught over there. Um, you can let out your kids to play until like 9, 10 p.m. Your neighbors are going to watch your kids. Not because
Mm-hmm.
it's you don't want to watch your kids, but because, you want your kids to have friends and play with them and things like that.
Yeah, you want it to be able to feel safe when your kids are outside
Yeah.
and who they're with and everything. I can see that. Yeah, I mean, I kind of looked into some of the other countries because for this question, because I was like, well, I mean, I've always been in Utah, and so I've
Hmm.
never the country, and so I was just kind of looking at other places, and I mean, overall, it seemed like the parts that they had incorporated of the CRC were like very well incorporated. They had a couple different laws that lined up with it, and then there was many parts that weren't incorporated with it. That's what I found when I was just kind of skimming over a couple different countries. But I don't know. Yeah, I just one thing that just kind of I don't know if this comes up in another or question, but one thing that I was thinking of is with the videos of those two ladies advocating against the CRC, um, they were saying how these things have gone to courts before.
Mhm.
If you remember how she said the child got taken away from the parents who wanted their kid to go to church on Mondays and Sundays and Wednesdays until they agreed to like only take the child to church on Sundays. And so then they were saying that will happen if this gets like,
Yeah.
this treaty gets signed between us and America. And then I was thinking, well, it's already happening now. So I don't understand like why it would be that big of a deal if it's already happening now. It's just not that common. Like if it was a big deal because it was just more in the public knowledge that kids could do that from now on, or I didn't understand that. But what I was thinking is just that I think it would really help with parenting if there was those overall structures just like Germany has, instead of just like that kid's friends probably didn't go to church. They probably didn't have the same standards as him, and then it probably made it more difficult for him to be able to feel the desire to go to church when his parents were inviting him to or hounding him to.
Yeah.
So,
I think it's like, I know a lot of people say like the country is too big, but on the other hand, I think what I see, at least from as an outsider, the main problem that we have is we cannot establish those laws because it's not a matter of the country being too big. It's a matter of there is no one we can trust in this country to lead us to those laws. I mean, if you look at
yeah.
the presidential election right now, I mean, come on, it's like two kindergarten kids. And so I think another problem is we have too much diversity. If you look around, majority of the population is immigrants from countries where the laws are not ratified, where it's not about family. Mexico or um, Africa, and and I think back then when in the 19 something, don't remember the date, when they let off with the loss of immigration and said, hey, let's have almost everybody come in after they banned most Asian countries to come in, and then they lifted that. I think that was a mistake. I think it's too late to fix it now because we just don't have anybody to lead us to laws for families and children. I think it's a lot. There would be too much protest, especially with the Constitution hanging over our heads. I think, like, I always feel like as an immigrant, it's something that's, I don't know, being held in front of me. It's a country of the free, and that's how America is being portrayed everywhere in the world. But nobody wants to take the consequences or compromise of that statement. And the families and the children are the ones that are being affected the most and being hurt the most. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting like take on that. It's true that oops, sorry.
you're fine.
It's true though that like it does. It just kind of hangs there and there's nobody who we can like believe in to help do this. Even if they get the law passed, then the people who are enforcing it are going to enforce it the way they want, and it's not like they're going to the people who are advocating for it are even really going to be that happy with it. Yeah, that's good. Let's do the next one. How did Kelly's presentation help your understanding of the ecological approach to family advocacy? Um, I don't know. I liked Kelly's presentation. I thought that she did a good job, and one of the things that she said that I liked in there was how our experiences form our reality. And so a lot of the things that like she had mentioned, like putting the fence up in the like in between the school and the park for her child's school, and then the Costa Vida thing, like when she went in and saw a video playing that she didn't like a lot of them were like the immediate things that influenced. And so that was just one that I could see the importance of, and I could see the easy access to advocating for those ones as well.
Yeah. I liked her presentation too. I thought that, I don't know. I think we've got a lot of those people like Kelly that have the right thoughts, but I think that, I don't know. I think we need more education out there, you know. But that it starts like with television and things like that. That we need to, I'm trying to put it in the right words. That we put down our feet, especially when with our kids, what they encounter every day, like including the schools and stuff.
Okay, so that's kind of like one of these other questions. We'll kind of just talk about the next two like together, but what system or level do you personally feel would be most difficult to advocate for, and why? I feel like what you're saying is answering what system or level do you personally feel is most important to advocate for,
Yeah.
and why. And so you're saying this more of like the media.
Yeah, I don't know. No, I really like Kelly's presentation. Didn't want to just goof off to another question. I just did not know how to properly answer it. But
Yeah.
no, I just, another example is just like, why do we have shows on TV that makes the kids dumber in this country? Honestly. Like, I talked to my friend about it, and she's like, all I see is in our shows like cartoons where they fight and where it's war and where there's not proper language, and it's not like back when she's an elderly lady, so when she grew up she remembers Sesame Street. Where they were counting and where they were doing letters and things like that. And it's interesting because just one random example is Curious George, the show. I like the show to a certain extent, and now this year, yeah, beginning of this year, Germany had a big battle with the company here because they, they thought that Curious George is a good show too, with some episodes because they explain how certain things work, and so educational. And but the company here said either you take all of our show, all of the episodes, or you don't take none at all. And so there was this big lawsuit. And so what they ended up doing was Germany said, okay, fine, we won't call it Curious George. They named the monkey something else. They were able to keep certain episodes, and they paid them a certain amount of money, but Germany would not budge with, we don't want all of the episodes because some of the episodes are really stupid. And it's just a silly example, but it just shows that in Germany, the shows that you see there are all approved by pediatricians and professionals that represent families and children, and who've done other professionals include the ones that do the research on brain activity and cognitive development and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just interesting to me. It's like day and night with media here, where yeah, like magazines, you cannot just get pornographic magazines in the stores in Germany. I mean, like, somebody would stop the kid from buying it, literally. Like the guy, like if a kid goes in there and buys inappropriate media, they would not be able to buy it, and it doesn't matter if they have the money or not. The parent would have to buy it, and you would get a lecture from the person who sells you who sells the stuff.
Yeah.
It's here, nobody cares. You you ask a 21-year-old to buy beer for you, and it works. But that kind of stuff, yes, it happens, but it's not as common as it happens here. And the same thing
Yeah.
with, teen pregnancy and all that, that all those, it's just, it's not a decency kind of thing in Germany or in Europe. We just don't get pregnant
Mhm.
because we have our eyes set on something bigger. We see that you go to school and you get money, and you let the government take care of you, and you go to work, and then you have enough money to go party at night. But you've got to get there
Mhm.
first by going to school and getting your degree and then getting your job. It's just very, very different.
Yeah, and that makes me think of like when had to read the Beacon of Light from Elder Cook, and in it he was saying like if people want to be dishonest, they're going to find a way to be dishonest,
Mhm.
but when we have a society that creates um like honesty because you're being accountable to God, then people are going to be honest. They're going to do what's right. They're not going to go try and sneak a pornographic magazine at the store or try to buy it, because they're going to know that they're accountable for that action and for what they're doing. And so then there's just going to be like an overall higher standard for everyone.
Yeah.
I don't know. That just made me think of that.
No, I liked how you said
Uh,
higher standard. It's just, I think, a matter of, yeah, the standard that you grew up with, I guess. If that's the right way of
right.
putting it.
Well, and they say like the phrase is so common. It takes a village to raise a child, and like if it doesn't have the same type of values in raising a child as you, then that child's going to be, I mean, that's the ecological theory, I guess. I'm
Yeah,
just explaining, but they're going to be influenced by it, and it's going to that child becomes and how they act.
yeah. Or like that
So,
you are able to, here in America, to, I don't remember the proper word for it, but go to court to be your independent person. That's the only way I can explain it. That you're cut off from your
oh, like when
parents.
you're 18, like
No,
that
you,
you can,
you can do it like when you're 16 even, or 15.
yeah, okay.
And, and it's, I mean, that concept is like, why would a government allow a family, a child, from to be separate from their parents at, whatever age you want to? You can petition it in court. I mean,
Mhm.
it's just mind-boggling to me, because your parents are supposed to be your leader, your friend, your, there are millions of words, but they're supposed to guide you in the right direction. But yet we don't
Yeah.
have in this country enough education on how to do that. And so parents are just kind of dumbfounded when they suddenly have a kid and they're like, I don't know how to do it. And then you go ask for help and they're like, well, we don't know either how to do it. You
Mhm.
just wing it. And I'm like, well, that's not really good enough.
Yeah.
Oh,
And I saw that happen. Like when I was working at that care shelter, I was like, I mean, they would have time for phone calls if it was allowed by like the person in charge of the child. They could call their parents.
uh-huh.
And so some of them liked to call their parents. Some of them had no desire to talk to their parents at all. They didn't feel connected to them. They didn't feel like they cared for them or done anything for them. And so I remember being in a phone call one time, and there was a boy, and he was very upset with his mom, and he was saying how he just wanted to go and live with whoever it was, somebody else, his friends, mom or parents or whatever. He wanted to go live with them, and how he just didn't feel like she was an adequate mom, and he'd said some of the things that like had bugged him about her, like
Yeah.
why he felt she was unfit parent, and they were serious things, and I was like, oh my goodness, a mom would do that. I was kind of surprised, but it's true. Like she had no training, she was just doing whatever she wanted, and like she had probably hadn't been brought up very well herself,
Yeah.
so she didn't have good judgment to be able to make those calls just on her own. And like it's not set up in our society to be able to have training. If you want to go to a parenting class or something, you have to pay your own money and come up with your own funds
Yeah.
and find it yourself, which they're probably few and far between, you know what I
Yeah.
mean, to be able to just, it's not like you hear about them everywhere. I mean, they're not around. It's hard to find education as a parent, especially easy access to one, especially if you're like in poverty, or if you know, then you can't just afford to just spend money on that when you're trying to just put food on the table.
Yeah. And
So,
it's like we have for the city where I'm at, they were advertising after school activities. The catch was $16 a day. I mean, who has that kind of money? Why can that not come out of our taxpayers' money? And
mhm.
I, something that Hillary Clinton said was that we need. She was talking about lower taxes, but that we need to focus on families. But that's not going to work if we already don't have the money for the children or for the parents.
Right.
So the way we have it in Germany is that, or in the European in general, is that we have taxes up to 50%. But that being said, we got free healthcare and free I think it's like 10% of your check goes towards healthcare. Everything is free. You don't have a
Mhm.
deductible to meet, no out of pocket. So, the $200 or $300 that you spend per month on healthcare, at least you can go to the doctor whenever you want to with your child, and you don't have to worry about it.
Right.
And you know that another thing is the pediatricians or the doctors are all taught by the same textbooks. Here, I'm scared to go, at least where I live, and I think Texas is one of the few, but in Texas, you have doctors come from outside of the country, and they do not have to necessarily pass the board of certification with the physician thing. And you don't know, if you go to the doctor, if they will know how to treat your child.
Yeah.
In Germany, it's all government based. And so I think that one thing that this country needs is minimum wage in Germany is $15 an hour. So I think we need to get away from the high horse of, oh, we want all this money, but we want all the benefits. You can't have both, you know? And if we want to protect children and
Yeah.
families, I think we need uh, minimum wage to be over $10, and we need to have taxes of at least 15-20%, and then we can talk about getting some money in for the families and for the parents, for the families in general,
Yeah.
in order to help them. But it's a
Yeah.
you need to be able to compromise if you want things.
Yeah. I feel like it's harder to influence those type of things though. Like to get those laws passed and to get all of that. I think it's so much harder, and I don't understand that as much as I understand like, let's put a fence up. You know what
Yeah,
I
I
mean?
know.
Let's make a bigger deal. When you have a law, that's going to have a much, much greater impact, but it's so much harder to advocate for and to get across to everybody else, because then they'll look at their immediate interaction in the microsystem, and they'll be like, well, this much is coming out of my paycheck, I don't have this much money now, you know.
Yeah,
And so then they are looking only at that one and not at the big entire system, the big macro
yeah.
system.
Well, it's the same thing like when parents and
So
families complain about budget, and I see them buy like Huggies and Pampers, and I'm like, you don't have the money for it. And that's where they need to be
yeah.
educated too. It doesn't hurt to buy the cheapest diapers. You buy the cheapest diapers, you can buy a pair of shoes. You know what I mean? If you've
Mhm.
got I think there's just so much lack of education in every aspect of how to be a family, how to be married, how to have kids. That I think that's where I think one of the many areas where that should start. WIC is trying to do that, but the classes that I've went to, terrible. I mean, they want you to have a
Yeah.
garden on your balcony in the apartment, to have better nutrition, but that's unrealistic if you work, 2, 3 jobs.
Right.
But they don't teach how to handle tantrums, how to encourage your child to eat more healthy, how to budget. And those are the things that they should teach. I mean,
Right.
WIC is the one of the largest, family oriented, organizations, and they should be the ones first to have those classes. Or if you're on food stamps, even better. If you're on food stamps, you have to go to a parenting class at least once a month. If you don't attend it, you don't get food stamps. You got to have some
Yeah.
incentive in this country, because people, it's a land of the free. I can do whatever I want. Just give me the benefits, kind of thing. There
Mhm.
needs to be a balance, I think.
Yeah, it's true. That's something that me and my husband we were just talking about the other day is like the if you want food stamps, then you have to go to parenting classes or like even do drug tests. Like drug
Yeah,
tests aren't required in most states to be
yeah,
able to get that. You know what I mean? Like you don't know what they're doing with that money and they're not using it. I mean, there's more beneficial ways to use it, but the government isn't setting up things that are like that are proactive, that are
yeah,
helping these people to be able to get off of their programs and to become contributing members of society. They're
yeah,
just enabling them and sustaining them where they're at
yeah.
and not providing more.
And I like what
And
you
so,
said that some that uh sorry, zoned out there. No, I've known a couple of liquor stores here that will bring up the liquor as food. They have the system to manipulate it. I mean, I know the country's big, but I know that there are, food stamp division offices, however they're called, in every city. And in every city, there are districts. So I know that there is a way
yeah,
of making sure that if, that they can shut those places down or give them a fine or a warning or something, but people are just
right,
too lazy. Might be a strong
right.
word, but I think, I've been told a couple of times that just give us your social security number, don't tell us you're an immigrant, and you get more food stamps. I've been told that a couple of times from um, Texas Health and Human Services. I mean,
Oh, wow.
yeah,
That's crazy.
Texas is one of those scary states.
Right. They just
But
kind of do what they want.
yeah, they do, because they're still kind of independent from all the other states. So
That's one of the things that I found interesting too. Like, just like how those people are just saying, well, just don't do that. You know what I mean? You're
yeah,
influencing your own thing, but kind of in a shady way. But one of the things, like, and then when the lady shared the Costa Vida experience, how
yeah,
all she did was write a letter, and then like immediately it was taken off, and she got a free lunch out of it. And so I was thinking about that. I was like, sometimes it's so easy to advocate. It really is.
yeah,
Like whether you're advocating for like, well, just don't say you're an immigrant, or
yeah,
whether you're advocating for this is pornography and it's in a public place, that's not okay.
yeah,
And so I don't know, it's interesting to see how much people just don't speak up for truth and
yeah.
righteousness now. And like I think a lot of times when they get called out on it, they'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, and like kind
Yeah,
of
I
do
didn't do anything.
yeah. Yeah, but like things have just been sliding by, and when things slide by for so long, then that just becomes customary, and then it's not that they're sliding by, it's just that that's the standard now.
Yeah,
So
and the standard of living goes down.
right, right.
But okay.
I guess we'll make sure we covered these two. um the most difficult to advocate for, I was saying that earlier, that I think it would be like the laws to get past the
Yeah,
higher macro system and stuff. um yeah. And then which level you feel is most important to advocate for. Um, I think that there's going to be a lot of other people fighting to advocate for the bigger things, to get the laws passed. There's so many people. And just like in Elder Cook's talk, he said the majority of the people believe in righteousness. but there's a small number who don't, and their voice is big. And so sometimes I think that we're not going to be able to fight that without being so contentious, you know what I mean? And then they'll just be like, oh, see, you're a hypocrite, you're being contentious about it, you know? And so I think that the most important thing is to just kind of control what you can, control the small influence around your child that you can work with. And there's going to be big things that do affect, but do everything to have that be the way we want all the time. So
I think the exosystem and the microsystem would be the ones that you can influence the most.
yeah, I think so too, because you can still control which media you're bringing into your home, or which community you live in. For the most part, you can move and be somewhere else, but yeah, I think those would be the easiest ones too.
You can
I think that
encourage your child what friends to go to, and if there's certain family members that are inappropriate to be around, you can exclude them and include those that have good standards and values, to have them more included in your family.
Yeah, I think that goes along, like when you're influencing your family and your children that way, then I think that it will be passed on at least through your family, and so that will kind of touch on the chronology of this of it as well, so that you're influencing future generations or across time, even if it's not a broad span, it does go across time, at least in your own family. So I think that's everything, unless you have anything else to say.
Nope.
Okay, so summary. Impressions from the article and video, and the parental rights. I don't know, what did we say on those?
We said a lot of stuff.
We did. We talked a lot.
I think
it's like I don't
we
even know
agreed
what else
that
to say
we need those kind of law. I wouldn't say laws, but those ideas. Well, not really ideas, but fundamentals of how children and families should be, how especially children should be raised. And we agreed that I think the article was really well written on how children should be protected, and that there should be more education on the parental rights.
Yes.
And then
to be proactive in it rather than just reactive with how parenting is done. And when we talked about the differences of parenting in the United States and in Germany, and how that has been a big influence, especially on your life that you've seen, and the cultures. Then
we talked about also like how the fundamentals of children and families, how it's too difficult to ratify them here in the US, mainly because we don't have the proper authority in this country currently to lead us in the right way.
Yeah, and how it's important to be able to have somebody to rely on if we're going to be able to have these things be carried out in a beneficial way.
Definitely.
Yes. Then we talked about, what was the other one?
Kelly's presentation.
Yes. I liked how she talked about how sometimes it can be so easy to advocate, and how much of a difference it can make in your microsystem. And how sometimes it can be fast and sometimes it can be slow.
We talked about, you said that I think the mesosystem is the one that's hardest to advocate, because it's like daycare center or the neighborhood play area or the school. or the church has to go
Right.
to.
And it's kind of hard to get that all passed, but with the EXO system you can at least control if you can't control what the media is saying, then you can control what media you're bringing
Yes.
into your home at least, and that kind of goes with the microsystem of what's directly affecting your child.
Yes, exactly. And the neighborhood that we live in, you can get the proper education in order to move out of the bad neighborhood. There's always ways to get higher education if you really want it or seek it out to be a better parent.
Yes.
Oftentimes you can just, sorry, I'm going off on a tangent. No, another idea popped in my mind. There are lots of YouTube videos, lots of articles that you can read that you don't have to pay for.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. You can have free access. I mean, the internet's an amazing thing, but then it kind of goes in to make sure that you're looking from valid sources and not just somebody who has an opinion who's throwing that out there, you know?
It's true.
And the one we felt most important to advocate for was what directly impacts your child and the exosystem as well. I think that kind of goes into the chronological aspects of it as well. If you're controlling those things, then it will go over time, and you want to make sure that what you're advocating for is something that's going to be good throughout time.
Yes.
You know, not just the here and now of what you want, but what will benefit all of your children and grandchildren and posterity in the world.
Yeah.
So
it's you like look at the bigger picture, like you said, that the benefits of that, of having those rights for the children and the families, on how it helps future generations, like you said, or even help even the economy and businesses, you know, have a higher standard of living and have a better economy because we have more people that are more educated.
yeah.
I'm going to be quiet now. It's a topic that you can talk about for hours.
Right. Okay, I think that's everything.
Okay.